Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and let's talk about my spring TBR. As you know, if you've been watching my channel for a bit, I do split up my TBRs now seasonally because I don't tend to read outside of my vlog ideas. If I do, it's like one or two books. So I just figured I might as well do this seasonally so you get an idea of the vlogs that I'm going to be putting out in the season. And we can really hone in on like goals and other menial things I have to discuss over the course of the year. So first, let's get into one of those menial things, and that is keeping up with my goals. All of the books on this seasonal TBR are all books that I already own and or are arcs that I've received from publishers. So let's get into covering the first major goal that I have for the first quarter of the year, and that encompasses the first 2 months of spring, so March and April. And that big goal for me is finishing the Wheel of Time series. As I am recording this video, I have less than 100 pages left in The Gathering Storm, which is book 12. Yes. So this will be done in February, no worries. But in March, I would really like to read the next two. I gave myself a hard goal of April 2nd to have the last book finished. If I've started it before April 2nd, that's fine for me. So the books that I absolutely need to tackle in the March and April, so the spring, book 13 of The Wheel of Time, which is The Towers of Midnight, and book 14, which is the final fucking book, A Memory of Light. These are written by Brandon Sanderson specifically, but using the world and the outlines that Robert Jordan already created in the other 11 books in this series. If you don't know what The Wheel of Time is about, you're so lucky. It follows this world where every generation of magic users has someone called the Dragon Reborn, and often the Dragon Reborn causes like destruction and turmoil for the world. So the Aes Sedai, which are the like women witch people, they like to hunt down the Dragon Reborn and like keep him under wraps and keep him checked so that he doesn't destroy the world. This Wheel of Time series follows this generation's iteration of the Dragon Reborn and how they've come from a small village to then enter the higher up echelons of society. So like I said, I am almost done book 12 and I will be starting book 13 like promptly, and then hopefully getting into book 14 by the end of the spring season. So this is like my big book project. I really want to be done the Wheel of Time series. If you've been following my channel at all, you know that I have been detesting my time with the Wheel of Time series. I really liked the first 3 books, and then since then I can't not say I've been enjoying my time. Given that I am now entering the Brandon Sanderson era, which is the era that I wanted to be a part of. I have a goal to read everything that Brandon Sanderson's ever written. This was included in it. Many people ask me why I'm doing this, if I hate it so much, but it's because I needed to get to these books. So I'm very excited because this one already has felt miles better. I'm not saying that it's like 5 stars, but it has felt a lot better than the last few books I've been reading in this series. So it's given me hope and it's reinvigorated my excitement for the series. And I'm hoping that the last 2 books will also be really good and I'll speed through them and we'll be done. One of my other goals for the year is to really tackle the Aardvark Book Box subscription service that I am a part of. So every month I pay for 1 book from the Aardvark Book Box, and I've accumulated quite a bit of them, but I have not been reading them as fast as I should. So I have a vlog idea for springtime, obviously, to tackle at least 2 of these. And the idea is to read the first book by this author because I happen to have them on my TBR, and then the Aardvark release. So the first author is Ling Ling Wang, and I plan to read Natural Beauty by them. This was their debut novel. So this follows our main narrator, who is extremely talented at the piano and uses techniques taught to her by her parents, who are also musicians who fled China during the Cultural Revolution. But when an accident leaves her parents debilitated, she has to abandon this career in music to work at high-end beauty shops in New York City. And then from what I gather, I think, is that she is succumbed to this overwhelming need to participate in like beauty regimens and stuff like that. Very excited for this one. I've heard nothing but really excellent things. And that leads us into the Aardvark book that I had ordered, which was Ling Ling Wang's newest release, Immaculate Conception. And this one I think has a similar style where it's like sci-fi horror vibes. And this follows 2 friends who meet in art school, one named Enka and one named Mathilde. And Mathilde seems to be like the better one of the 2, which instills this sort of competitive relationship between the 2 of them until Mathilde's fame gets really big and they start to drift apart. In order to cling on to this relationship, Enka joins this new technology called Scaffold, which allows Enka to enter Mathilde's mind. I think I'm going to really like Ling Ling Wang because I just like the ideas that they have. So very excited for these 2 books. And then continuing along with this idea, I also have the first book written by Nat Cassidy, which is Mary. And this follows our main character, Mary, who is a quiet, average, middle-aged woman. But lately, things have been changing inside Mary. She is experiencing hot flashes. She can't look into the mirror without passing out, and she's starting to hear voices inside her head. I've heard really, really, really good things about Mary as well, and people tend to really, really like this. I read from Nat Cassidy before I read Nestlings. Loved it. Really, really liked his writing style, so that's what intrigued me with reading his debut. And then Aardvark again offered the newest release from Nat Cassidy, which is When the Wolf Comes Home. And this follows our main character named Jess, who finds this 5-year-old runaway. And after a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, the two of them run away together to survive. This sounds really, really good as well. So I'm very, very excited by these two Aardvark books, but equally excited by our author's debut novels. So I'm really thinking this vlog could be extremely successful for me. Now that we've tackled some of the goals for the year, I also want to get into some arcs. I slowly drifted away from arcs at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, so I really, really, really need to get into some. The first of which being a September release of last year, which is Orpheus Builds a Girl by Heather Parry. William Von Tor is dying. As he looks back on his life, he reflects on his upbringing in Dresden, his beloved grandmother, and his medical career during the Second World War. But mostly he remembers his darling Lucy, the great love of his life, his dark-haired beauty promised to him in a dream years before they met. Though only together for a few months in her first life, their love is written in the stars. Using scientific research compiled for decades, Willem ensures that for him and his beloved, death is only the beginning. But through the cracks of Willem's story, there's another voice, that of Gabriella, and she will not let this version of events go unchallenged. She tells the story of her sister Luciana, fearless and full of life, and the madman who robbed her from her grave. Sounds incredible. Sorry, the lighting is really changing in here. The sun is shining. We're just gonna have to get through it, so I hope you don't mind. The next book I need to read is a January release of this year, which is George Falls Through Time by Ryan Collett. This is really, really bothering me. Is this better? I feel like this is better. We're going to keep it like this. So George has been newly laid off and he has a really, really big internet bill. He's got a spider-infested apartment and 2 of the 6 dogs he's walking in London have just escaped. It's pure undiluted stress that sends him into a spiral all the way to the year 1300. When he comes to, George recognizes the same rolling hills of Greenwich Park, but the luxuries and phone service of modernity are nowhere. In their place are locals with a bizarre slanted speech in awe of his foreign clothes who swiftly toss him in a dungeon. Despite the barbarity of a medieval world, a servant named Simon helps George acclimate to a simpler, easier existence until a summons from the king threatens to send his life up in flames. This sounds funny. This sounds like a really good time. So I'm hoping to really enjoy it. And I'm hoping the humor is just as funny as the synopsis seems to be. And then the last arc I'll talk about is A Practical Guide to Dating a Demon by Hannah Reynolds. This is a February release, so not too bad on my part. I thought this was like an adult romantasy, but it seems to be a YA romantasy, which is fine. A student finds herself accidentally betrothed to a demon and investigating his connection to the magical irregularities plaguing her city. As a scholarship student, Naomi would rather focus on deciphering ancient scrolls than dating, especially since the only boys asking her out are less interested in a night in Naomi's company than an introduction into her influential aunt. So Naomi devises an excuse to turn down her persistent suitors. She claims to be betrothed to a demon. Her story works perfectly until she arrives home one night and finds the demon lounging in her rooms, insisting he's her betrothed. This sounds fun. I can't wait to see what it is. I'm moving away from YA a little bit, but I'm hoping to still really enjoy this. And speaking of, it perfectly, I didn't even realize, links into my next goal, which is my Dwindle Down My YA TBR series. I understand that the lighting has changed dramatically. I hope it still works. The sun was really, really bothering me. But like I was saying, this moves perfectly into my Dwindle Down My YA TBR goal. The video I wanted to tackle in the springtime was to dwindle down my physical YA TBR, even though I just mentioned that NetGalley one that I will be also tackling. But let's look into the physical arcs that I've received from publishers all of last year. Did not tackle one time. So the oldest one on this TBR from June 10th, 2025, and that is Emiko by Sherry Ugaki. So this is a retelling of Emma by Jane Austen, and it follows Emiko Kimori, who lives with her Oji-chan in a small town surrounded by friends and neighbors, including her childhood pal Kenzo Sanada, who wants her to spend less time playing matchmaker. But Emiko can so clearly see who belongs together, even when her targets don't know it for themselves. She simply must meddle for the sake of true love. As for her own romantic life, who has time for that? This sounds very similar to Emma by Jane Austen. So I think it could be charming. I think it could be cute, and hopefully I enjoy it. The next book is this one, and it is Twin Tides by Hien Nguyen, and it follows heiress and influencer Calist Ha, who lives a glamorous life in an LA high-rise, her perfectly curated social media hiding the cracks in her family. Across the country, Arya Nguyen is barely surviving as a freshman and academic scammer at Georgetown University. They have never met. That changes with one unexpected and grim phone call. Their long-missing mother has been found dead in Minnesota. Upon arrival in the sleepy town, Callista and Arya discover another shocker. They are identical twins. Ready to unearth the secrets that led to their separation and their mother's death, they start looking for answers. Sounds fun. This one is a December release, so not too far, but I definitely need to tackle this one. And then finally, the last physical arc we have is Gods and Comics by Kat Cho. I've read from Kat Cho before. I'll put a picture here for what it was because I honestly can't remember the title. This follows 17-year-old junior class vice president Grace Bach, who has her entire future all mapped out with plans to become a doctor like her parents. But the weight of Grace's own daunting expectations leads to debilitating panic attacks that have made her a virtual outcast at school, even to her longtime friend and crush. To make matters worse, her grandmother and only real support system has just died. To cope with the grief of another loss, Grace starts a webcomic inspired by the Korean myths her grandmother used to tell her as a child. Grace never expected her comic to go viral, but it has, and the new fandom has somehow conjured the real gods. Now it's up to Grace to get them back home. Okay, that sounds really fun. I'm actually excited for all of these, but especially this one. I'm mostly excited, if you don't know, for my Dwindle Down My YA TBR, is to read these and then get them out into my community for younger readers to pick up and hopefully enjoy. So happy to read these, happy to get them off my shelves. Then the next vlog I have planned is to finish the Our Fantasy Bingo. So if you don't know what Our Fantasy Bingo is, it was created by the Reddit Fantasy Books as a reading challenge to tackle like different types of book and to read from like diverse voices and different books. And I have, unfortunately, 5 challenges left, which I think is the most I've ever had moving into spring and when I plan to do this vlog. I have an idea of hopefully dwindling that down, but we'll get into it because it still, I guess, counts as a book I'm going to be reading for spring. So the first challenge I have to complete is to read a book published in the 80s. And for the hard mode, which is like an extra prompt on top of this prompt, let's say, it has to be from an author of color. And for that, I want to read Dawn by Octavia E. Butler. I've read from Octavia E. Butler before and really liked it, so I do want to dive more into her works. And this is the beginning of a series, the Lilith's Brood series. When Lilith Ayapo wakes up from a deep sleep, she finds herself aboard a vast spaceship, haunted by confused memories of a nuclear war that ravaged the world. She discovers that she is being held by the Oankali, a seemingly benevolent alien race that intervene in the human race's extinction, rescuing the survivors from the ruined planet and placing them in a coma-like sleep for centuries. Now the restored Earth is ready for inhabitants, and the Oankali want Lilith to help awaken the rest of the survivors and rebuild humankind. I'm sorry, does that not sound amazing? Very excited to pick this up. I already know I like Octavia E. Butler's writing. When with this premise, I could just see myself really loving this. The next prompt I have is high fashion, and the hard mode is that it has to involve a character who directly works with like clothing. And for that, I saw on the Our Fantasy Bingo like suggestions that Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher would work for this. While foraging for a startle flower, perfumer Grace finds herself pursued by ruffians and rescued by a handsome paladin in shining armor. Only to outwit her hunters, they must pretend to be doing something very unrespectable in the alleyway. Stephen, a broken paladin, spends his time knitting socks and working as a bodyguard, living only for the chance to be useful. But that all changes when he saves Grace and witnesses an assassination attempt gone wrong. Now, Stephen and Grace must navigate a web of treachery and poisoners while a cryptic killer stalks one step behind. First of all, how gorgeous is this cover? Second of all, how amazing does that premise sound? I can't wait to read this. Next, we have the epistolary prompt, and that is to read a novel that's written entirely in the epistolary format. And honestly, I did not check if this fits, and I should have, but I think because it's a diary, yeah, it's in diary entries, so that works. And that book is Piranesi by Susanna Clark. I have heard nothing but excellent things about this book for a really long time. Piranesi's house is no ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, and its walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, each one different from all the others. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned. Waves thunder up staircases, rooms are flooded in an instant. But Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. He lives to explore the house. There is one other person in the house, a man called the Other, who visits Piranesi twice a week and asks for help with research into a great and secret knowledge. But as Piranesi explores, evidence emerges of another person, and a terrible truth begins to unravel, revealing a world beyond the one Piranesi has always known. And that's like literally all it says. It sounds very mysterious, and I'm just interested to see what this book is about, what everybody loves about it because, like I said, I've never heard a bad review about this book. Then the next prompt is small press. So that's to obviously read from like a smaller press or an independent publisher. For that, I have the one book I have on my TBR that's independently published, and that is Never Die by Rob J. Hayes. I received this from my friend Danny over at Current Chapter. Thank you, Danny. Time is up for the Emperor of 10 Kings, and it falls to a murdered 8-year-old boy to render the judgment of a god. He knows he can't do it alone, but the empire is rife with heroes. The only problem, in order to serve, they must first die. Ian has 4 legendary heroes in mind, names from storybooks read to him by his father. Now he must find them and kill them so he can bring them back to fight the Reaper's war. I don't know, this sounds really, really fun. It sounds really interesting. And like, look at this little cutie over here. Excited to read this. I have heard really good things about this, and I think it also won like our Fantasy's like independent awards, indie published awards. I don't remember. I just know that people like this, so I'm hoping that I really like it. And then lastly, we have what could be the prompt that I eliminate shortly. So originally, I wanted to read The Witness for the Dead by Catherine Addison because I read, and I thought it would have been cute, The Goblin Emperor last year for the last Our Fantasy Bingo vlog. So I thought it would be really cute to like bring it back, bring my girl back and read the next one because the prompt is elves and dwarves, and last year it was goblins, and they all reside in her world. So I was like, oh, how fitting, how cute. So when the young half-goblin emperor sought to learn who had set the bombs that killed his father and half-brothers, he turned to an obscure resident of his father's court, a prelate of Euless and a witness for the dead. Thara found the truth, though it did him no good to discover it. He lost his place as a retainer to his cousin, the former empress, and made far too many enemies among the factions vying for power in the new court. The favor of the emperor is a dangerous corn. Now Thara lives in the city of Amalo, far from the court, though not exactly in exile. He has not escaped from politics, but his position gives him the ability to serve the common people of the city, which is his preference. As a witness for the dead, he can sometimes speak to the recently dead, see the last thing they saw, know the last thought they had, experience the last thing they felt. It is his duty to use that ability to resolve disputes, to ascertain the intent of the dead, and find the killers of the murdered. Now his skills led him out of the quiet and into a morass of treachery, murder, and injustice. It sounds really fun, and Thara was one of my favorite characters from the Goblin Emperor, so I really, really do think this could be fun and it could be a really interesting read. Unfortunately, though, I feel like I'm going to be running out of time, so I might just pick up a graphic novel since I could read those pretty fast. And the one that I have with both elves and dwarves is The Adventure Zone, The Crystal Kingdom. This is volume 4, and it is by the McElroy brothers. The Adventure Zone is the podcast that they had created where they went through a D&D campaign together, and it was so extremely successful that they've turned their D&D campaign into these graphic novels and turned themselves into their Dungeon and Dragon characters. So this is just following Taco, Magnus, and Merle as they perform whatever they need to do for the Bureau of Magic, I think it was called. The Bureau of Balance, and they are sent to reclaim a 4th deadly relic. I really, really like this series. I liked it when it was a podcast. I really, really like the graphic novel series. So I could it's not cheating because it still counts for the prompt, Kelsey, but I could cheat in my brain and just read the graphic novel. We'll see. And then lastly, the last vlog I have planned for spring is also the biggest one. So maybe I should make my life easier and read that graphic novel. But I really, really, really want to tackle War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. It is among my life's goals to get through the really thick classics that I have on my bookshelves. And why not start with one that everybody says is really, really good? Do I know what War and Peace is about? No. Out of his complex okay, but what is it about? Guys, I don't know what War and Peace is about. I mean, it doesn't really say anywhere, but I'm assuming it is about war, and it is about peace, and it is about Russia. So I'll be tackling it. We'll see. Finally, that's it. Those are all of the books I will be talking about in this video, but not all of the books I will be reading for the spring season. So that's a little fun. If you've read any of these books and you would like to give me a warning, please let me know down below what you thought about them. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know. And if you would like to follow me on my reading journey, I always leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. Of course, on the basis that we still live in a capitalistic society and need to rely on social media to stay connected. And because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye.